It's going to be more of a temptation for you or an external weakness for you, maybe. Or if you've made any like healthy changes for your own life, going back to family sometimes can tend to pull you back that direction where where you came from, right? So it's good to focus on like and remember like the goals of where you've gotten and where you want to be.
Yeah. I also think it's helpful there isn't a single emetophobe out there that doesn't know that you need to wash your hands to prevent the stomach virus. And that's about the best you can do is to keep things clean and to wash your hands. So all those unhelpful thoughts that you're having that keep coming into your head and permeating, they're not going to prevent you from getting sick. They're just making everything worse and they're lowering your immune system. So if they're not going to help, they're not helping you protect yourself. They're just miserable. They're not serving you. So try to just recognize that it's it's not protecting you in any way. It's just making things worse.
Yeah, it's like a false sense of security. Oh, I got my hand sanitizer. And I'm like, that doesn't actually kill the neurovirus, it's alcohol. But I mean, no matter what you do in general, you can't actually ever prevent it. And like you said, every time you do an avoidance or safety seeking, you're not only maintaining the phobia, but you feel worse and powerless. It's like it feels like you're more powerful, but you're actually not. You feel worse afterward.
Yeah, and it might help you realize what things that you're doing that actually make you feel better and are worth doing versus things you might need to get rid of. Like if I go into a room with someone who has the stomach flu, I'm going to wash my hands after, and then I'm not going to think about it. If I am taking something to help with nausea, not eating, doing all these things, but I'm still thinking about it, none of that stuff's actually helpful because none of it has made me feel any more in control. If anything, it's reinforcing that you're not in control because you don't trust how you feel and you don't trust that you can cope with it. So you're taking all these things and then still worrying.
Right. And oftentimes, emetophobes report feeling a lot more nauseous than the average person. And so it's like a cycle that just reinforces itself and gets worse.
Have like irritable bowel disease, and one of the symptoms of that is nausea. And I've in the past few years like spent about a year of time in a flare up, and during that whole time, I felt less nauseous than I did when I was a emetophobe.
Yeah, that's
So
huge.
really creating those feelings.
That really, I mean, we have research on that too, but then when you live it in your own life, you're like, oh yeah. And I'm not saying to do a like body scanning, but at some point you have to just stop and ask yourself, like, okay, you're not actually nauseous right now. Like when you're sick, you have hours leading up to it. You know you're going to be sick and you know how to take care of yourself. You're going to be fine. This is just anxiety right now. And then once you start challenging the thinking behind it, you feel like the nausea and the anxiety just subside. It's so much easier to do that when you've retained your internality and you're feeling really strong and like you can cope with anything. It's easier to use your Thrive tools when you're internal.
I think it's hard to be internal when you're constantly judging where you think that you should be at this time of year. And
Mhm.
like maybe you're comparing it to last year, or maybe you're comparing it to your friends. Like maybe your friends are getting married and having kids. Maybe somebody just got a new job and you just feel like you're stuck. And that's okay to feel that way, but you also have to realize like you made it to a family gathering. That's not easy for you, but you're doing it. And there's a lot of little things that you've done, even if you're not 100% or where you want to be, getting there is the hardest part.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because people often set these like crazy expectations for themselves and they don't even know why. And then they beat themselves up when they're not able to obtain them instead of just letting go of some of that desire for control and perfectionism and just being okay with how it is. And another thing is like setting boundaries with people. It's like if you are not in a place for whatever reason to have company at your house or to if you want to visit for 4 days and they're like, no, you should be here the entire time. It's like setting that boundary and being like, no, that's what I decided to do. This is what's going to work for my family. That's okay. And I think around the holidays, you just see so much social pressure of like pushing you beyond your boundaries. And that
Mhm.
can create a sense of externality as well. Maybe there's a reason you don't want some so and so to stay with you, or there's a reason you want an Airbnb and not to stay with these people, or and that's your choice. It's your life.
Yeah, and that is okay. Like if there are people that you don't feel safe around or you just feel like really destroy your mental health, you don't have to see them every year. Just because society tells you like, "Oh, it's the happiest time you have together," you don't. Easier said than done, but it's sort of uplifting when you realize you don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah, you can easily just create a boundary really nice, really firm. And a lot of times when you do learn to thrive and you want to go back to those people, it's difficult to spend that much time with them. Sometimes you just got to cut it off and be like, "Hey, we're going to head out. Thank you for having us." Because it's just sometimes it just becomes too much, or you don't want your children copying some of those behaviors because as we know, that's how all of this starts, is that children will copy what they're seeing, what they're hearing.
Yeah, I think something that really helped when I had a coach and was going through this was my idea of being emetophobia free, and I thought that I was going to be dealing with vomit all the time, like eating in excess, doing all these crazy things, like going on cruises and all this stuff, which I had no interest in going on a cruise. I I know some people love it, but it was something like that, and also it's really hard to find someone that would say like, "I'm throwing up, this is great, I'm having a good time."
Yeah.
So having a realistic expectation was a big thing and realizing, like, what it would look like. Like, I work around people that are sick, so being able to be with someone while they're being sick, comforting them, not having a panic attack, not having these invasive thoughts throughout the day. I saw someone once when I was driving that was being sick on the side of the road, and I ended up having medication because I was staying up all night replaying this scene in my head, ruminating on it, and it didn't help. But then when I went through Thrive, because I was just not having these unhelpful thinking styles and ruminating, it went away. So even if you do go on medications, which can be helpful and necessary at times, you still have to put in the work, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
No way around it.
But in a sense, it's such rewarding work. It's so rewarding when you feel in control of your own life again. You feel so powerful. Like I find even with clients, like from day one, they're like feeling more powerful. And it's so rewarding to hear that from other people too. It's just like, yes, you're getting your life back. You were a victim of these thinking styles. You didn't have the emotional intelligence and, well, that you didn't have the psychoeducation. And it's almost like setting them free, like the chains come off and they're able to make their own decisions and they have this self agency back over their lives. Like, I don't have to be negative all the time just because I was raised to think that way. That's actually not reality, you know?
Yeah. Or like maybe instead of picturing the worst case scenario, what would it look like if everything went how I want it to go?
That imagination, so powerful.
Yeah, so
I
I
love
think we discount things. Like, if you picture the worst case scenario, you go through it and it was perfect, you've pictured the worst case scenario 100 times, so that's still gonna be overpowering the real situation of things going well.
and we know that doing that, all that does is create anticipatory anxiety, which is the Jaws music. Like, it's not helpful. It's almost like your imagination is so strong that as you're panicking about being sick, whether it's an hour or the entire day, your brain almost registers that as if you are doing the thing that you hate and fear, like the entire time. And the stress on your body is just, it's really unhelpful and it's miserable. So being able to have the skill and the tool to stop that rumination and to stop that Jaws music is key. Because you're like, I'm not going to waste my day. If it happens, it's going to happen.
Yeah, plus, you've made it through every cold and flu season so far,
Yeah,
and this one is not special.
that's true. It's just what they put all over the news in their catastrophic language.
Yeah, no one's gonna watch the news if it's not sensationalized. There's
Yes.
1,000 things that go well every single day. There are so many people that are doing amazing things, and the news is not gonna report on that because it's not a good
Yes.
story.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's so funny. Like, My mom just went, my parents just went on this cruise and they had neurovirus on it. I guess like tons of people were getting sick. And her response was just like, they shut the pool down the entire time. And I really wanted to go in the pool. Like she just wasn't even thinking about anything else. She was just like, well, that's the inconvenience. And I was like, yeah, it's interesting because the news sensationalizes stuff like that, but then the average person isn't thinking like that. It's like, well, that's an inconvenience. It's not,
Yeah.
the dreaded stomach bug, you know.
Yeah, a
Um,
few weeks ago, I was at work and I actually was working with someone who had the stomach virus, and they were sick. And then I went in to work with them, and I didn't know that they had just been sick. And they told me, I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Would you like me to come back later if you're not feeling well?" They said, nope, come right on in. Let's talk. Let's do whatever you came to do. So for some people, it's really not a big deal.
Like the people that it's like not a big deal to are the people that don't get sick the most. I don't know. That's what I've witnessed in my life. The people that I've had people that are just so caring and loving, like they'll take care of anybody no matter how sick they are. And somehow their immune system is so great and they just are the last one to get sick in the house. I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any studies on that. I'm
I
sure
don't know.
that there probably is one. I just don't know what to look up.
I don't either. It's just an observation. It's like nurses, people who, or even parents. Parents can take care of sick kids all the time and not get sick from them. And that's the reality of it. It's not always and never. It's not like my kid's sick, so therefore I'm definitely getting it.
Yeah, I know I was sick when I was little with loads of different contagious things, and I don't think my mom caught any of them.
Yeah, we had the stomach virus in our house and we did not, I think we were one of the only families that didn't pass it around each time.
Yeah, I know. They always say that, and it's like you have this looming thing over your head. But when I was in high school, I had the stomach flu for a week, and my mom was sitting next to me on the couch because I was a full-blown emetophobe at the time. She didn't get sick, and she sat right next to me. We weren't sharing food because I wasn't eating anything, but like she was less than 3 feet away from me. At one point, my whole family got the stomach flu except for my sister. So it's just, it does not mean that you're going to get it, and it's not worth worrying about if you are, because you can't change that. So you may as well just try to help yourself feel good. Because if you're panicking and then you get sick, just makes it even worse.
Yes, that's such a good point. And I think part of learning to thrive is learning to accept the brutal facts of your reality, whether that's you've been exposed or just regular hardships in your life. Is just like life is hard. It's okay. I can do this. Like there are things that are external. There are things that are hard in life. Like it's not just throwing up, it's taking care of a sick loved one or like I recently lost my dog. That was really painful and I allowed myself to grieve that. And it's how you process it, it's how you respond to it. Is it helpful? Is it unhelpful? Is it too long? Is it, you know what I mean? It's really all about that middle box of just like how you process things. Like what lenses are you wearing? Because everyone thinks that they're experiencing reality, but they're not. They're not.
When I was stuck in my emetophobia, I was on my clinicals once, and there was someone that I encountered that was getting sick, and I was with someone else in the room. So I said, I'm going to step out because I couldn't handle it. And I was like in awe of this person that they could handle it. The next day, we had someone and they had gone to the bathroom, and I was with that same person and they couldn't handle that. So everyone's living in a different reality that they had like pooped, they were grossed out by it, didn't want to handle that. And that was the person the day before that I was like, oh my God, they're amazing, they can handle anything. So it's really everyone is in a different reality.
That's really interesting. It has to do with that middle box of processing life that everything is. That everything is. And that's one of the first things I do with my clients on day one is I explain that box. I'm like, you're not experiencing reality. Everything you need to change and work on is in this middle box. And that's going to change your perception and your interpretation of your life. This is the choice to be happy. This is the choice to have good mental health right here. It's not about you. It's not about your past. It's not about your self-esteem. Like, in other words, it's not about your worth or how intellectual you are or anything. It's just this middle box that determines the outcome for you.
Did you ever see those function machines where you like put something in, there's a function in the middle and then the outcome? I don't know if that was just me.
Like in a math problem?
I think, yeah, when I was in like elementary school, it has like a part where you put the problem in and then it spits it out, and in the middle is the function you have to perform.
I think
That's sort
so.
of like reality versus everything that you're looking at the reality through, and then what you're interpreting it as.
Yeah. Okay. Same thing. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's just, is what's in the center of that helpful or unhelpful? That's it,
Well, I think it's also just realizing that it's there, because by the time that you are seeking help for emetophobia, it's probably not even like a split second that this is happening. You're automatically reacting because your body's so used to it and it wants to be efficient. So it's like, I'm protecting myself, I'm doing everything right. That's what your brain's thinking. And then when you realize you have that split second to change it, that's where all the magic happens.
Yeah. Well, you don't have I said that to my coach when I first went through. I was just like, you don't understand. You don't understand. Like, man, this hits me out of nowhere for no reason. I'll just be sitting in the movie theater and suddenly I have horrible panic.
Mhm.
The thing about like emotional processing in your brain, like you said, it's trying to help you, but you only have like, I think it's like milliseconds for that information that the external stimulus turns